First, I do want to express my sympathies to the victims of the Boston Marathon, but also praise the first responders and the citizens of Boston on Patriots Day for their united effort to capture these bad guys. There's still much that we don't know about the Chechnya brothers, but I'm confident that we'll get to the bottom of this as the investigation unfolds. Yesterday, we learned that the perpetrators had planned to travel to Times Square in New York after the Boston attack to unleash more mayhem and bombs. They apparently had pipe bombs and another pressure cooker bomb. American people want answers, and so do I. I do want to thank the witnesses for being here. It's unfortunate that no one from the Federal Government is here, even though they were invited to send at least one person. A lot of questions revolve around the older brother's trip to Russia. The Russians were so worried about him, they asked us to look into him. Less than 3 months before he left for Russia in January of 2012, the CIA successfully pushed to have him put on the U.S. counterterrorism watch list called TIDE. But for some unknown reason, between the time he left for Russia and came back, his name was not a concern of the U.S. government, so U.S. authorities did not flag him. That meant U.S. Customs did not stop and question him, nor did they let the FBI know he was back so the FBI could talk to him. I'm not sure, and I don't know why U.S. authorities would decide the older brother was not a concern while in a foreign country under really suspicious circumstances where known terrorist groups operate. Even the Russians were worried about this. It looks like we may have the same old problem of information sharing or lack of it. In fact, the Washington Post reports this morning that a single U.S. Customs and Border Protection official assigned to the Boston's Joint Terrorism Task Force received a warning that the older brother, a suspected militant, had returned from a lengthy trip in Russia. Officials said there is no indication the unidentified Customs official provided that information to anybody or any other members of the task force, including the FBI, who had previously interviewed the militant. So 10 years later, after 9/11, we should not be struggling with this same issue of information sharing among American agencies and also communication with foreign governments who are concerned about terrorism as well. We don't know if the attackers had ties directly to al-Qaeda or affiliates, but the evidence so far suggests a link to al-Qaeda Inspire magazine produced by al-Qaeda's group in Yemen. The magazine provides a step-by-step instruction for anyone wanting to build a device like the ones detonated in Boston. The older brother traveled to Russia, then went to Dagestan for 6 months between 2011 and 2012. He might have been radicalized there. We're not yet certain if that is true or by whom. Both brothers were Chechenyans, and now it seems clear the older brother was the ringleader. Chechnya knows conflict and controversy. They've been dealing with it for the last 20 years. We can be sure there's no shortage of bad guys in places like Dagestan just waiting to get their hands on young wannabe jihadists. Bin Laden encouraged Saudis to go to Chechnya to fight Russia. Yet another outlet for extremists is against the United States and coalition forces on the battlefields of Afghanistan. Elsewhere, if a Chechnyan jihadist cannot attack a Russian target, then a soft target in his own city in America or Europe is the next best option. In fact, al-Qaeda has been encouraging those types of attacks for years, according to terrorism expert Bruce Radell from the Brookings Institute. Al-Qaeda says Islam is under attack from every direction, and jihadist answer is to strike back in New York, Madrid, London, Toulouse, and possibly Boston now. In fact, just days after the Boston attack, authorities in Canada arrested 2 men for allegedly plotting to blow up a train. Initial reports suggest al-Qaeda elements in Iran had provided the 2 men with direction, guidance, and information. Al-Qaeda and its affiliates' call to global jihad is alive and well and lives in jihadist forums, social media outlets, and the like. So we have many questions that we need answers from. The threat from terrorist attacks around the world did not die with bin Laden. We must be realistic and understand that and find out specifically what is taking place in Chechnya and how that affects the United States. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.